top 3 critical success factors are location, location, location. If I could talk about anything that's more critical, I couldn't. I've looked at businesses from doing this from across the planet, right? From end to end, and I can tell you, it's about location. Now, that might be location as in mobile, when you go to where the customers are. It might be indoor or outdoor, but it's about location, and it's so critical that I'm going to. I've got a little chart here, which I'm going to put. I'm going to draw up some things about, because this is I thought was really interesting. We got a venue called Thunderbird Park, one of our venues. We run multiple venues, and it is a adventure park. Right? It has ropes courses, it has mini golf, it has horse riding. They actually have a thing called rock fossicking, which is really unusual. It was actually originally a mine, right? And so people go and find these like opal things as well. But they decided to bring in archery, and they do a lot of stuff. It's quite cool. But you know, it was a dead dog venue. It was our worst venue. In fact, you were going to shut it many times because we said this just isn't working for us, right? And the sales figures over the last few years, I've got the chart here. There's a chart, and it basically looked sort of like that, dipped down fractionally, right? And then suddenly, it's gone like that. That's how it's done. This is about 2006. This is 2010, so it's actually going down in 2010. Not looking real good at all. This is getting worse, but and this is our figures for 2011, annualised figures, sales, at the one venue. And this is a big difference. This was just absolutely hopeless. I mean, we're talking annualised only 20,000. So this is going for at about 135,000. Right. And it's growing pretty strongly. So it's just going. And now, what has happened? Sorry.
Is that pounds or
dollars? Yeah, actually Australian dollars, which are worth slightly more than the US dollar.
okay.
Right? Slightly, at the moment, slightly more. But yeah, because we use Aussie dollars for currency. Now, that's still not fantastic. It's not our best venue, but it's still indicative. It's going up towards it. Now, what the hell happened there? Something's happened, and that's really, really interesting. I tell you what happened. About 1,000 feet, about 300 meters happened. Right? Same venue, same park. Right? But what happened was that there was one of the other activities they did have there was like an animal place. They had like sheep and they had some dingoes and koalas, and that actually closed. And then I renegotiated with the owner to move us from where we were to where they used to be. Right? And it was about 1,000 feet, 300 metres, not very far. Walking 10 minutes, easily. In fact, the boundaries of the two fields are actually just about adjacent already. Now, that's gone through the roof because of it. So, why? Well, because the U site happens to be right next to the main car park. Right? It happens to be right underneath where they have the adventure ropes course. That's a big adventure ropes course. So it's just it's a $500,000 investment rope course. This is a pretty flash rope course. That move has taken us from out the back somewhere to right up where people can see us. The field we're using now is much, much smaller than we had. It's not as big. But it is moved just a little bit to in a high trafficked area, and suddenly we've got demand. What I've actually found, this location thing, is that there's just about a one-to-one correlation in your business between, if you're running a fixed location, between traffic of people looking, this is important, looking for activities. Right? They're actually looking to do something. It's not foot traffic, they're not looking to do something. It's foot traffic which you're actually looking to do something. And I really got this when I actually went through a seminar from one of the senior executives of Ripley's, believe it or not, which is obviously somewhat successful. They set up stores where people come in and hopefully get scared and check fantastic items around the planet. And he said, they just spend inordinate amounts of time checking every detail of a potential location. And if it ain't right, they don't do it. Right? If it doesn't they don't get all the ticks, they don't do it. And I thought, well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? Well, it wasn't obvious to us, and so much so, actually, I had a farm we bought, and I was going to set up a banner put on it. I actually sold it. After that, I realised that's a mistake. Right? That's a mistake. That would have been a disaster. So this is interesting because this venue we've actually been running on and off since 2002. Right, and it went up and down and stuff. But it's not the busiest venue in the world. It's a little out of the way, even though it's a venture park. The marketing of the whole park could be better. I mean, the owner of the park and me don't completely agree. Good question.
What do you define as a little out of the way?
It's up in the mountains, and it's about an hour's drive from the centre of the city. If you can take the business to the customers too, right? They don't necessarily have to come to you. Both work. It's just that space required outdoors. If you're running a commercial field, 40,000 square feet outdoors is fine. Indoors you're going to be a lot less than that, but outdoors, as long as you've got plenty of things to hide behind. This has come down what it used to be because one of the things Satar did. Tell you a little story. I wasn't going to do this, but my wife just about choked me if I did. And forever from all told me she was right and I was wrong. One of the things we've done with Satar is the option to turn off the friendly fire so you can't shoot your own team. And I was a bit of a gamer, right? And I'm like, that's crazy, that's not realistic. You can always shoot your own team, that's part of the infantry combat. Now, infantry combat's do a lot about making sure there's no blue on blue, right? You know where your buddies are supposed to be and where the other formations are, and you don't shoot at them. Of course. So, I had this fixed idea in my head, and that sounded like a good idea. She said, no, we're definitely going to put that in. It's right. Okay, well, it's a bit of an afterward, we'll add that. Best thing we ever did! Best thing we ever did, because we're not running a military organisation, we're running an entertainment. Right? That's a very important point. I'm going to cover it more later. Because what it's allowed us to do is two things. First, it allows us to squash into smaller areas, right? Because you can have 3 or 4 guys in a room or a fort, and if they're shooting and spraying around, bouncing off walls, because infrared will bounce bits, if you're using outdoor long-range mode, they're going to shoot, 400 or 500 feet, you're going to get a bit of infrared bounce. Without hitting each other, so having a great time. Whereas previously with the classic system, we said you really needed to spread the players out about 25 to 30 feet apart. Right? So you need a lot more space. If you wanted to run 50 aside, well, realistically you needed 500 metres, which is about 1,500 feet, I think, roughly. Width, just a width, to make that work. And now and this is why Thunderbird Park, one of the reasons it's working, because we turn off friendly fire, we've got a smaller site, which means we can get closer to where the people are, and it still works as a game. So that, and actually I've got to tell you now, so far, we've gone so far with the friendly fire off, that even in the 12-hour game, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow, for the most experienced players, we still don't have friendly fire on. But commercially, one of the things it's also allowed us to do, which was absolutely fantastic, was it's allowed us to run mixed age groups and abilities together in a much more satisfying way, because there's nothing worse than, in a classic system, you might have a 7-year-old playing, you've got some teenagers playing on the team, and he's going, the 7-year-old's going, and blasting their own team from 9. That's very frustrating. The teenager's going to get angry, frustrated, and then no one's having a good time. Now, they just ignore the kid. They get back in their game. They don't even notice. That's fine. So the average level of satisfaction has definitely gone up. And it's actually affected us really substantially. It really hit in last year. Across all our sites, this is one of the reasons it went up, but the main one was the location. But we did found that we've had to spend less on advertising because we're getting a lot more word of mouth and repeat business than we were. About a facility, what's important? The first thing we discussed there obviously was the passing trade. But if you're looking to set up a facility, there are some basics. You'd be surprised how often these don't exist. You do need adequate toilets and car parking, and ideally some form of food and beverage is a reasonable commercial standard. is really actually important. Because you might think that your business, the players may not care too much if you've got a portable toilet and stuff, and they probably don't that much. But often your most important customers are the people who don't even play. Right? That's really quite important. Something I really had to get into my thick head, it took a while. That was actually really important. Because the drivers of the group, be it a youth group organiser, a mum, you know, organising a party, you know, it's often the person not playing or not actually interested in playing is the most important customer, and actually having them comfortable, and they've got to have, you know, somewhere to sit under the shade, they need somewhere to go to the toilet. They're actually really important decision makers in the whole process. So you definitely don't want to ignore those, and the facilities ideally want to cater for them just as much as you cater for the players. And obviously the location you run on, if you're running reasonable safety steps need to be taken into account too. If it's outdoor, look, that can be obviously major tripping hazards, those sort of things, you want to watch for that. Indoor, you want to think about particularly first the choice of equipment, but you know also what rules you're running on. I mean, running through doorways, doesn't matter what equipment you use, is dangerous because you're going to get people running through a doorway and they're going to slam into it. But this is commercial entertainment, and commercial entertainment, in my view, needs to be viewed as commercial entertainment and not as a sport. Right? And sport and commercial entertainment are different animals. They're priced differently, the whole thing's structured differently. And, you know, I play a sport, I happen to be a pretty good table tennis player, and I play competitively. And I used to teach it. You know, but I pay for my sport to my club about $400 to $500 a year, and I'm there a lot. Right? And that's pretty typical of a sport, right? In terms of, you know, you might go and play a little league or whatever you're doing, right? It's in that sort of region with your fees and stuff. So that pricing ain't going to work if you're going to run a successful business. That ain't going to pay for the cost of running this. That just won't cut it. So you've got to be thinking commercial entertainment, because people will pay more for a special entertainment experience that they're going to remember, hopefully, for a very long time. Right? It's a memorable day. Then they're ever going to pay for a sport on a per-use basis. And so I've definitely come to the conclusion that we have to focus our attention, about 98% of it, at least, at focusing on as a commercial entertainment and thinking along those lines. So not everyone, of course, going to agree with that. There's some people that really want to focus it as a sport, but I found that once you really, I have run sports, we do run, there is a national Claymore in Australia and there's Queensland Claymore, we run tournaments. But I find to the level of attention that the operators put on making it a sport, to the level of that they're unsuccessful financially. So I'm going to be talking today what I understand to work financially as a business. I want to talk to you as a business people.